Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to my predictions for Week 2 of the Overwatch League. I'm Kanto, and today we're going to be starting off with the first match, which is the London Spitfire versus the Washington Justice. Now, today, when I'm going over these games, I'm going to go a little bit faster unless I have something very specific I'm going to say, because the last video took a lot longer than I was expecting it to. Ended up being a longer video, so I'm going to go kind of fast, and then if I have any special notes, I'll let you guys know. So as I said, for our first matchup, we have the Washington Justice versus the London Spitfire. I gave this to the London Spitfire. Even though they've been looking a little bit down in Week 1, I think they are still a stronger team than the Washington Justice, and hopefully they have figured out the problems that they were having in Week 1 and will come back stronger in Week 2. The second match is the Philadelphia Fusion versus the Florida Mayhem. The Philadelphia Fusion has been looking like a strong team, so I gave it to the Philadelphia Fusion. Our third matchup is the Guangzhou Charge versus the Dallas Fuel. Even though Dallas Fuel looked very weak in their first game, they did look better in their second game, and the Guangzhou Charge has not looked extremely strong so far, so I gave this to the Dallas Fuel. Our fourth matchup is the Seoul Dynasty versus the Chengdu Hunters. The Seoul Dynasty has looked very strong this season, although they did fall to the Dallas Fuel. I think that was more of a fluke thing, and they will look stronger this season and will continue to refine and figure out the new members of their team and how to work them into their rotation, and they will take this match. On Friday, the first game we have is Atlanta Reign versus the Toronto Defiant. I think this matchup actually will tell us a lot. We haven't seen the Toronto Defiant play too much, but they have looked pretty decent, and the Atlanta Reign has looked strong so far. I did end up giving this match to the Atlanta Reign. Our second matchup is the New York Excelsior versus the Los Angeles Valiant. New York Excelsior has looked pretty strong in this meta, although I don't think they look at all as invincible as they did last season. And the Los Angeles Valiant, even though they lost, they were running Kuki on support instead of Custa, which I'm not sure if they're going to continue to do or why they did that. But I do think if they put Custa back in, or maybe they know something we don't, I think they will look better as the season goes on, but I still gave this match to the New York Excelsior. Our next matchup is the Shanghai Dragons versus the Boston Uprising. Both of these teams have not looked extremely powerful this season. However, Shanghai Dragons were struggling with their main tank situation, and hopefully they have figured this out before our games start. And the Boston Uprising have shown signs that they could be a strong team, with one of the big highlights being Fusion's their main tank. So I gave this to the Boston Uprising. Our next matchup is the Houston Outlaws versus the Hangzhou Spark. I think this game should be pretty good. I think the Houston Outlaws do have a decent GOATS team, and they do show signs of life here and there. However, the Hangzhou Spark have looked extremely strong, so I gave this matchup to the Spark. Next, on Saturday, our first game is the Los Angeles Gladiators versus the Paris Eternal. I have a mark next to this game, and I'm very excited to see how this one goes. Mainly because the Los Angeles Gladiators have looked strong, but so has the Paris Eternal. Paris Eternal is a European team, as we have said before, and the European region is known for their GOATS strengths, and the European region is known for their strengths in GOATS play, and just tank play in general, and Paris Eternal has looked good in it. However, Los Angeles Gladiators have looked very strong as of lately, and even at the end of last season. So I had a hard time picking this one, but I did give it to the LA Gladiators just because they have proven in the past to be a very, very strong team, and I think they may have a little bit more versatility than the Paris Eternal may. And I really do like these teams, even though I would myself, if I had to choose which one I'd like to win, I think I would like Paris Eternal just because they are the underdogs, and I really like Soon, I really like Ben Best and Shadowburn, but I like a lot of the Gladiators players too, and I gave this matchup to the Gladiators. Next up, we have the Philadelphia Fusion versus the Dallas Fuel. I do like players on both of these teams, and I think both of these teams have potential to be very good in this meta. However, the Philadelphia Fusion have looked very, very strong, and the Dallas Fuel has looked shaky. So even though I would probably prefer the Dallas Fuel to win just because of my own personal preferences, I did give this match to the Philadelphia Fusion. Next up, we have the Vancouver Titans versus the Guangzhou Charge, and I gave this matchup to the Vancouver Titans. Next up, we have the Chengdu Hunters versus the Florida Mayhem. These teams neither have looked very impressive. However, the Chengdu Hunters did surprise us, pulling out the win against Guangzhou Charge in Week 1, so I gave this matchup to the Chengdu Hunters. On Sunday, our first game is the Hangzhou Spark versus the London Spitfire. I think this will be interesting. Even though the London Spitfire has not been looking very strong, I think they are still a strong team, and hopefully they will have worked on a lot of the problems they had in Week 1 and will have resolved a lot of them. However, the Hangzhou Spark have been looking very strong and hopefully will continue to look very strong, so I gave this matchup to the Spark. The next game is the New York Excelsior versus the Houston Outlaws. I gave this matchup to the New York Excelsior. Next is Toronto Defiant versus the Los Angeles Gladiators. The Defiant has looked like a pretty decent team, as well as the LA Valiant, so I think this matchup could go either way. However, I gave it to the Los Angeles Valiant. Finally, our last game of Week 2 is Vancouver Titans versus the San Francisco Shock. I think this matchup has a lot of implications for the league and is one of those final matches that will really kind of give us a feel for where these teams are. The Vancouver Titans have not gone up against a very, very strong team, in my opinion, and the San Francisco Shock hasn't really been tested, so this will be a good place to see where these two teams lie, at least in a GOATS meta, and I ended up giving this match to the Vancouver Titans. I'm sorry I did not get all these videos out last week like I was hoping. After I had edited and was uploading the video, I realized, one, that it took a lot longer to make these videos than I had originally thought, as well as edit and upload and all the different things that goes into creating one of these videos. And then two, I also realized I kind of wanted to do it each week before the games, so that way I could take the information I learned from the last week and try to input it into my predictions for the next week. If you guys are enjoying these videos and you'd like to see more, please consider leaving a like, commenting, subscribing, sharing it with your friends if you think they'd be interested. If you disagree or if you agree on one of these, or if you have a specific team that you're rooting for, I'd love to hear it in the comments. I hope you guys enjoyed. I have some other content that I'm hopefully going to be working on here in the upcoming future, and I hope to see you guys in the next video.